Thank you so much. It's amazing to be here in the cinema. It's so beautiful. And to see that all of you have come out to see our movie today, it's really special. And thank you so much for this Breakthrough Artist Award. It's so important for us who are, still at the beginning of our career to get this kind of recognition. It really helps for the future. So I'm really thankful. We used to have independent cinemas in Mumbai. Mumbai is a city I'm from. We used to have a few of them when I was growing up. And I used to go for like film festivals or, just hang out with my mom who used to like to watch independent movies. And there was always a place to go and kind of discover some part of the world that you'd never seen through cinema. And I kind of became very curious about this medium because of watching these movies, which you don't see on your television or, in the commercial cinemas. And I think it's kind of sowed the seed of becoming a filmmaker. And so I think that I owe a lot to independent cinemas. And I think it's really great that you held on to this beautiful space. And now there are two. So that's amazing. I think you all are so lucky in Boston to have these spaces. And now that I've made my first fiction feature movie and I'm trying to distribute it in India, it's so hard to find spaces to show it. You're in some multiplex cinema between two Bollywood movies, and it's just really nice that I can be here and show my film. Thank you. Yeah, and I don't want to say too much about the movie. It's based in Mumbai, the city that I'm from. Just a small thing to know about the city and about those who are not familiar with India. We have something like 24 different languages, which are like official languages. It keeps changing, like 22, 23, 24, and like this. So, but Mumbai is a city that's very cosmopolitan, and we have people coming from all over the country to live and work here. So you'll hear a lot of different languages, and honestly, we don't understand each other. It's not like very close languages. They're quite different. So which is an aspect of the city I really love, and which is why I tried to incorporate it in this movie. So I've tried to put what language it is, so you will see that, but just to kind of put it out there that this is the characteristic of Mumbai. Okay, that's it from me, and I will see you after the screening. I hope you enjoy the film. Thank you so much.
How are you doing, Payal?
Very good. Everybody stayed.
This is a wonderful crowd. I do have to say, Boston has a wonderful theater-going, scene, cinema-loving folks, and so many of these folks are here because of you and because of Coolidge Corner. This is so exciting to be here. Congratulations for all your success, the attention that has been you've been receiving both for your directorial skills as well as the quality of specifically this film here as well. It's amazing to see really you are truly the breakthrough artist of the year.
Thank you.
We're excited to see sort of like the continuation through this award season. I wanted to also just congratulate, because I did see a note on the internet that you also just recently celebrated your birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
I'm going to start with actually a question I think that probably a number of folks in the audience may be wondering about, and it's probably in the last scene, the major issue, well, not issue, but sort of like, at first we're like, oh, it's clear, it's not her husband. But then you're like, oh, wait, is it? So could you please maybe share a little bit about sort of how to navigate, how we should think about that scene?
I'll tell y'all, but then it won't be a mystery. No, it's not a mystery. It was, for me, it was important that the character of Prabha, who has so much internalized the morality that keeps her tied to this almost non-existent marriage, needs to first go. So for her to do that, it wasn't important to me that this husband comes along and says, that it's over or whatever. So I wanted to create this, like, her ultimate fantasy, her ultimate dream, her ultimate desire is that this person that she's been yearning for comes back and tells her, I want to be with you, and I was thinking about you, and I want to hold your hand, and all that. And in that moment, if she says no, then that for me is her sort of catharsis and letting go of this person in her life. Because I was doing some research while writing this script, and I spoke to some women rights lawyers in Mumbai, and they were telling me that I was asking them what is the kind of solution that somebody like Prabha can have. So they said that there can be an annulment after some amount of years. But they've also told me that a lot of women come, get the advice, and then never come back for that annulment or divorce, because it's such a lot of, there's so much shame involved in that, and a lot of pressure. So they just say, okay, we'll just stay with this thing. So for me, there was a lot of like, for Prabha to even say what she wants to do, she needs to figure it out for herself. So I created this device of like a fantasy moment where she can have this catharsis for herself. And I personally like very much stories that go from very neo-realistic or cinema verite styles to becoming something that is like dreamlike or magic realism. And I think that Indian storytelling has that diversity. Like we have a lot of folk narratives and women's tales, which calm the fluttering heart by, told generation to generation. And I felt that I wanted to use that folk tale feeling to be able to talk about those things that we can't talk about, and maybe find another way. So this was the attempt.
No, it was brilliant. You did a fantastic job of that, and I think you actually carried that through the whole process of this film. Even just thinking about your opening scenes where you have the statements of different people, and you're looking at the scenes of Mumbai, the streets of Mumbai, sort of like that correlation of starting in fiction, nonfiction, and then sort of taking us all through fantasy, and then also just the fact that you were able to give Prabha her own definition and her own authority, that it felt like we had gone with her on this journey.
She literally breathes life into this person, and then she can do what she wants with it.
I love that. That's amazing. I actually wanted to also just compliment you on your ability to, I think, share the persona of Mumbai in a way that I don't think American audiences and cinema goers have had access to. I will say for myself, even a very sort of narrow perspective of what we have had access to in terms of, for myself, I feel like it's been like Bollywood and Slumdog Millionaire. And there's nothing really that's been in between in terms of accessibility of films. And India has such a wide variety of filmmakers and talent. And the fact that you are now coming out as sort of this amazing talent out of India, people are going to be paying attention, and I'm hoping that will open doors for a lot of folks behind you. I wanted to actually ask a bit more about your intent about making the film and sort of what your hopes were for audiences to have in making this. So maybe if you'd share with us a bit about that.
I think when I start thinking about a movie, the intention always comes with certain questions I have about the world that I live in and about myself in that world. So that was the sort of, at least for me, I can't help but get drawn to those questions in my movies. So if you've seen my short films ever, that's pretty much the same stuff. So I think that I'm always trying to kind of seek more answers of that. And with this movie, I felt it was a bit more self-reflexive, because I was thinking when I started writing it that I was thinking about, the duality of the two different kinds of morality that these two women have vis-a-vis the world that they live in. And I find myself always in conflict as having both Anu and Prabha in me, where this is the discourse that's always happening inside as an Indian person or maybe Indian woman, where I'm always thinking about I am judging or being judged. And I don't think that's specific to India. I think a lot of women have this baggage. And I'm always sort of conflicted with that feeling. And so I wanted to address it in this movie. Also because sometimes I feel like, as I grow older, then I'm looking at younger women, or as when I was younger, I was looking at older women and responding in a conversation in a certain way and thinking, where did this come from? Like, where did this response, which was not very nice, come from? And I've been thinking about that a lot, and it troubled me, and I wanted to sort of delve into that in a movie. So that was the beginning of the movie, to have these two women who are thinking of their own bodies, their own sense of desire in two different ways, and but they live together. So they are very like physically close, but like in their minds so far apart. And how does this sort of conflict arise, and what happens? And it was really about myself struggling with these questions for me, and that was sort of where the film was. And I think that as we grow older, we change so much as people. We think back about how we were when we were younger, or how I often think, how would it be if my mom was my friend and we were the same age? Or, how would we have thought about things differently in different generations? Or, these kind of questions I've always had. And that's what I was trying to kind of find answers to. I haven't yet, but maybe I'll make another movie which has similar themes.
You did a wonderful job, and I think starting that kernel of complexity and curiosity that you had in wanting to share with audiences, that it kind of spreads throughout the whole film, because it's so layered, and so many different complexities of things that you sort of include in the film, but you include it in a way that isn't we're not directly told those things. We're really shown through visuals, through sound, through all of these things. I actually wanted to sort of maybe now go a little bit more into some of the symbolisms and use of divisive, mechanisms that you helped to tell the story that you had wanted. And one of the first thing I think I will start with is light. How did you use that as to help advance, the character development, both on screen, but then also even going as far as to putting it in the title?
Yeah, I think that light has a very psychological impact on us, and I think you all in Boston would probably feel that the most with, the light changing. In India, like I said, there are only, I haven't said this before, sorry, I said it in the other screening, but that we had, at least in Mumbai, the city I'm from, we have only 2 seasons, and one is the monsoon, which goes on for 4 months, and then it's hot. So that's it.
Wet and hot.
It's wet and hot. So it's always 30 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. Anybody?
Anyone out there? 80 degrees.
80 degrees always.
And humid?
It's very humid. It's like 80% humidity. And when it goes to 26 degrees, like for 5 days in the year, 26, we wear sweaters and say, oh my God, how is it so cold? So for me, you can imagine how terrible it is for me, this cold, but I'm really not used to it. So I was thinking a lot about like the change in season and what that can make you feel. And the monsoon is like a time where it's very gray and bluish, and there's like a kind of an overcast feeling at all times. You don't know what time of day it is, because you can't look up and see the direction of the sun, because that's how diffuse light is. So I wanted to have that feeling of light, which is always a bit murky and associated with the monsoon, which is hot and sticky and sweaty. And I felt that because all the characters in this first half are sort of stuck in this position or situation, I felt that kind of light helped with the script and the nuances, and also darkness. Like, I love darkness. I think that darkness can provide a lot of refuge for young lovers, for example. And the lights in the city, like I wanted to shoot Mumbai in the darkness, because Anu can be, she can be anonymous, and she can find a little, it's so difficult to find privacy, in cities like Mumbai, and which are also costly, expensive. And then, so for her, the city is lovely, and the darkness with the twinkling lights of the Muhammad Ali Road streets are wonderful. And I think that we experience cities like that. Like when I'm with somebody I really like, the bus ride doesn't feel that awful, and you don't mind that there's a traffic jam, because you'll be together for a little bit longer. And it's everything feels a little better in the start of romance. So I wanted to look at the lights of the city with that twinkly feeling of silly love. which I am very fond of.
I love that. I felt like that was so evident. It just reminded me of the scene where she's trying on the sunglasses and he's sort of completing a delivery for his work. That you see in her this joy, even though she can't necessarily afford these sunglasses, but the fact that she has access to them and able to touch them and be with him in that moment was like so lovely.
Yeah. And the second half, we wanted it to be like kind of very, very sunny, sometimes even bleached out. So the landscape is just sometimes like really bleached out by the sun and things like that, to just kind of have a different feeling of this trip, different from the city, to kind of, even though it's a pretty sad reason to go there, just the feeling of that space is so different from Mumbai. And we also wanted to sort of highlight the feeling of the landscape of Ratnagiri, which is the area where there is a lot of laterite rock, which is red colored, and the whole like landscape reverberates with this red. And we wanted to sort of highlight that landscape of the laterite rock.
Wonderful. And then in terms of, besides sort of coming from light, you already talked a little bit about, the weather and the monsoon, but it seemed very also apparent, at least in terms of like almost like another voice in the film, being both, water and rain, but also wind. Like it felt like, it's like, oh, the winds are shifting, and, and I was wondering if you could share sort of insights into the intent that you had around those.
Yeah, I was thinking a lot about like the water is very important in the movie. I'm not really sure why, but I had this instinct to use it. Sometimes there is no profound answer for it, but I wanted it to be that, in the first half, the rain kind of just comes down and it's this vertical feeling of the water, while we don't see the ocean at all, when actually Mumbai is a coastal city. So the ocean is a very big part of the city, but you don't see it at all in this part of the movie. And the only time you see the ocean for the first time is when they leave. And then it's this sort of placid, flat ocean, and the horizontal feeling of this vast water is what takes over you. And so in both half of the movie, you hear water. You hear it as rain in the first, and the second as waves. I don't know why I did this really. I just had this instinct towards, having that tactility of feeling water somehow. And I wanted to use it a kind of a beat of like a breathing feeling of the season outside.
Yeah, no, I mean, water is life. It really is so well connected in that element. I think your instincts is right on about that. I also wanted to know a little bit more about, I think another sort of delight that you've included in the film is the soundtrack and the music, and especially that like the piano, piece. Where did that come from?
So that is a piece by an Ethiopian nun called Emahoy Sege Mariam Gebru, and it's
I'll
called.
write that down, please.
Yeah, you can Google Ethiopian nun jazz piano, and she's the only one. She's amazing, like she's legendary. She's the most amazing. She passed away last year at the age of like 93 or something, leaving behind an incredible body of work, pieces she composed herself. And my editor actually introduced me to her music, and when I first heard it, I was like completely mesmerized by it. So I felt like it gave me that feeling of reverie that I spoke about earlier in the beginning of New Love, where you can feel a bit silly and lose yourself in it. And that's the feeling this music gave me. And so interesting that she was a nun. I don't know how this is connected, but it is for me somehow. But yeah, so all her music is like this. It's really, it takes your breath away. And I just really love it. So I decided to use it like a leitmotif, like a recurring theme for the relationship of Anu and Shiaz. So whenever we see them, we get to hear this music.
That's great, thank you. And then the last sort of symbol that I'm really curious about is that rice cooker.
The rice cooker. I mean, I felt that I wanted something this guy to send, which was like, for me, this rice cooker, in India, we, like the rice cooker is not the most common thing. It's like an advancement. So, you are doing well, then maybe you will buy the rice cooker. So it's sold as if in a way that, like, you can be a better mother or a better wife because you can take care of more children, and not that you'll have time to go to work, but you just can be better for everyone. So I was thinking about like kitchen appliances and how they sell this idea of family to us as women. And it's the patriarchy that goes so well with these capitalistic ideas and completely go at our anxieties of what we think we should be. And so I thought the rice cooker, a very banal little kitchen appliance, can have all these different connotations and feelings. And if you see like ads for kitchen appliances, they're shot like they're shooting jewelry. They're going round and round and little Dido lights and gold flickering, and it's so beautiful. And you're like, yeah, I need this, but why?
Yeah, that vacuum cleaner really is what I need to have.
So I wanted to sort of have this juxtaposition of family and, the commercial sort of idea of it that is, really ingrained in our brains so much. And suddenly we want it. Like, why?
The commercialism of all of it, and even in some ways much the glimmer and shine of Mumbai, and why everyone's so attracted to it, even though there's so many complications with it involved. Absolutely. I'm now, in terms of this is now your second feature that you have released, and as a both writer and a director, how did you come to the field or the industry? How did you know that you wanted to go into filmmaking? And now that you are a filmmaker, what from that kind of continues to motivate you to figure out how to choose your stories that you're most attracted to?
Well, like I said in the beginning, I used to go for a lot of screenings with my mother, and she is actually a visual artist, and in the 90s she started doing video art. And at that time, they would shoot on VHS tapes. And there was a horrible period of editing time, which was called linear editing, and those of you who know it will know how painful it was. But so she would do linear editing at this time, and obviously her films were like very small budget because they were like small art works. So she didn't have like that kind of funding where she could be in the editing studio and watch all the rushes. So she and I was quite a kid then, and she and her editor would be sitting on our kitchen table and watching these rushes and writing these meticulous notes, and I thought it was all very cool. So I would hang out and watch them and see what is it they were up to, because it looked like some cool sciencey stuff. And then I asked her what she was doing, and she said it's editing, and it's not very original, like all movies have this. So then she explained to me like how a scene is cut, and then there is editing. And after that I felt like the Matrix had been revealed to me, because I started watching like all these Hollywood movies. I see what they're doing. They have the shot and the counter shot and over the shoulder and 180 degrees, and I was really into it, as if like I knew something that others didn't. And so I wanted to be an editor. So that was my motivation, and I really wanted to do it. But when I finished university, like our film school is a post-graduation, so you have to apply after you finish university. And I applied for editing, and I didn't get in. So I was really disappointed. I moped around for some time. And because I am from Mumbai, the easiest jobs to get is to be an assistant director. So I started doing that for some time, and I thought, okay, maybe I should apply to then after a few years, I had summoned the courage again, and I applied for doing direction.
Wonderful. And then how do you choose sort of your subjects, or sort of what attracts you to the stories that you want to tell?
I wish I had some clear answer for this, but I feel like I can't help but, think about the things that I am writing about. And like I said, with this movie, I was so concerned with, the morality of that women have towards themselves. And I grew up in a family of mostly women of different generations. So perhaps I'm always attracted to those themes of how women look at each other. And I feel that even if I try to do something else, I always come back to these themes. And you find different stories to find your answers again and again, till you feel so like somewhere you've reconciled with that, and then maybe you can move on to something else that's bothering you. But I feel like it is not a very conscious thing. It's something that just sort of, you are compelled, those themes find themselves. Even if I do, like when I do research, I meet a lot of people. Like I do a lot of interviews, which are not very planned. Like I'll just go talk to people, collect ideas, and I find myself asking the same questions. And then that's why then the conversation goes in the same way. So obviously, like these things preoccupy you like ghosts and don't leave you, and then you're compelled to, find a way to talk about them because you don't have those answers yet.
Wow, but that's really the thread that almost you're finding that connects us. And I'm feeling like the universality that this film, even though it's so specific about Mumbai, about these women, just attracts, it's like recognizable. It's just so recognizable, and that you're able to transfer, all this research that you've done into these beautiful, beautiful connections to be on screen. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
your
You can
talent.
hear the music upstairs.
Yeah. I know we only have a few more minutes. I wanted to actually just ask a little bit about, I guess, your interest in social commentary and including that in the film. Like your first film was more of a documentary style that was more specifically around, a statement of issues, and this one also included a bit of that as well. And how is that kind of a theme that you think is part of that, I guess, the drive that you have?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think, for example, the story of Parvati and the gentrification of Mumbai, it's something that I've grown up looking at, and it's a very common. Unfortunately, the way Mumbai is designed is that it's a city that is like sort of a peninsula. So, like I guess New York, it can't expand anywhere. So land is continuously getting, people who have rights to it is constantly changing. And so that was something that I've seen change before my eyes. So I was very much concerned by it because, it's the accessibility to public space and those who have it and who don't is something that is really fading away quickly in a city like Mumbai, and it's something that if you live there, you must be concerned about. And it's happening all the time, and it's actually the rights of, like, a lot of the parts of Mumbai used to be just a swamp, and it's the people who lived there actually literally filled it up themselves with soil to build their houses there, and now, because it's become prime property, they are being thrown out. So that's not the case for Parvati, but it is the case for many others in Mumbai. And it's the hard truth of our city. And another thing I wanted to sort of have in this movie was the aspect of the papers, which Parvati doesn't have. And in India, we had a movement about not showing your papers, which was called like Kagaz Nahi Dikhayenge, which basically was a time when the government passed a law where everybody had to prove that they were Indian. By showing like birth certificates of your parents, and this is like this thing. And the thing is that most people like don't have paperwork in India. Like it's very difficult to have to prove that. So it's a law that is really problematic, especially in a country like ours, which is not a document-driven country. So I wanted to have that also in the movie, where Parvati is like doesn't have the papers. Does that mean she doesn't exist? And so this aspect was something that I was bothered by and wanted to put. I also feel that the only regret I have with this movie is that it somehow comes across as the countryside is better, but in fact I didn't want to say that. That is also wrought with complications, because the first time Anu comes into the house of Parvati, she says there's no electricity here as well, and she's like, I don't think I'd ever move back to a place like this, and she's quite flippant about it. But I just want to say that it was not my intention to make it a kind of a pristine place, but just a kind of refuge for the three of them to be together.
No, that's wonderful. I appreciate you actually saying that, because I think in my head, as I have this very narrow American perspective of hearing when Parvati was planning to go back to her village, I had in my head that she was going back to like a really poor, rural, like nothing. It was, even less than what she actually had when she came there. But then to see like the ocean, it may also be that I just got back from vacation, that I was so drawn to the ocean and thinking like, oh wow, I did not expect it to be as beautiful as it showed up, and that also might have just been the camera work too.
No, it's something that I think about also.
Yeah, okay, wonderful, great. So I think that pretty much, actually, I was going to mention when you were speaking about the connections that that I was also able to make, I think being here in Boston, even around the gentrification, the neighborhoods of Boston are also experiencing very similar things with sort of the different class structures that are coming in and gentrification taking over with these beautiful buildings because the land is worth so much now, and really pushing out people. And so the work that I've been doing in Chinatown has really seen a lot of that. And the idea around open spaces and who has access to them has been a huge thing. So thank you for including that too. So I think we're pretty much at time. I wanted to just give you a chance to share if you had any other closing thoughts or anything else that you wanted to share with folks before we...
I think I revealed a lot. I'm sure everybody's really hungry, so I'll let you all go. But thank you so much for coming today, and it was a real privilege to talk about my movie here with all of you in this magnificent cinema. And the city that I've been there only for 2 hours, but I really liked it. So,
well, we hope you come back, and we are going to be here when the next film comes out. We're really looking forward to seeing what comes down the road. We expect that there will be many more stories that you'll be wanting to share with us. So thank you so much for coming today. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I will actually now turn it over to our dear friends at Coolidge.
Wow. I am so mesmerized by the film, by the characters, by the light, by all of it, and now by you. Thank you so much for joining us. It's really such a thrill to have you here. And I guess I'm supposed to say who I am. I'm Kathy Tallman. I'm executive director of the Coolidge. I mean, lucky me to have a situation like this. It is our great honor to present you with the 2025 Coolidge Breakthrough Award. I feel like he'll soon be accepting an Academy Award, and we just got in just in time. Thank you, Payal. Thank you so much for coming.